Hey coin collectors, and welcome to DC Coin World International Coin Channel. And we're going to take a look at the 1991 United States quarter today, and we're going to try to answer the question of why there are so few high value quarters from 1991. And I think the real reason, just get it out up front, is that people just haven't been sending them in to PCGS and to NGC, because if you get up to a MS66 quarter in 1991, then you're only going to get $35 to $75 for it. It's probably not worth sending them in. And so unless you're going to get a 66 plus or 67, PCGS says they've only seen 4 66 pluses and 4 67s and no 68s. So unless you're going to get, if you're just going to get a 66 out of it, it's not worth the money to send them in. But let's take a look at it and see what is going on with these quarters. The first thing we should look at, of course, is the mintages of these. And you saw that we have 3 of them here. We have the San Francisco mint here. We have the Denver mint here on the right. And then in the center, we have the Philadelphia mint. And in 1991, of course, you see the S on there. And you know that it's shiny and has a different finish. And so at the San Francisco Mint in 1991, they were no longer making business strike quarters. You're only going to get a proof quarter from 1991. And that's what we have here. If we look at it, it's just beautiful. Look at the shine. Look at it says Liberty at the top, George Washington. You notice that George Washington is actually polished a little differently than the rest of the coin. So he kind of pops off the coin. It says In God We Trust here, S here for San Francisco, 1991. And if we go way, way down in here, we see a J and an F for John Flanagan, the original engraver of this coin in 1932. In 1991, at the San Francisco Mint, these proof coins, they made $2.86 million. This is worth a minimum of $3, probably more than that in this condition. At the Philadelphia Mint, this is a nice coin. It looks like it has some kind of coloring to it, but if we look at it, it's in pretty good shape. A little bit of a dent here, kind of a funny one, almost like it wasn't fully sealed, and there's another scratch up there. Same thing, In God We Trust. Same John Flanagan. This is clearly a business strike, not a proof strike. In 1991 at Philadelphia, they made $571 million. If you can get this in an MS65, which is pretty close right here, you can probably get 10 to 12 for it, because there just aren't many MS65s out there. This one, if you look at the feathers on the legs, you look at the feathers on the body, you look at the arrows, you look at the line, that we always look for this line in the center of the last arrow where the feathers are, and then down here under the tail, where it touches here. These are just really, really nice coins. The problem is nobody's sending them into PCGS or NGC to get them graded. Little bit of a sloppy work here. Probably you see where the N in unum and the U and the M are just kind of faded, and that's probably from grease or something else being on here. So that might affect it a little bit, but that's not a huge quality issue. I don't think. The beak looks nice, the eye looks nice, but if nobody sends them in, nobody gets them graded, and the money stays about the same. And this is a Denver mint, not quite so nice. You see that there's kind of this dent down along the front here, and sometimes these coins do get this kind of dented, almost like it bubbled a little bit. Not enough to make it of real value, but if I found one of these, I would keep it, just because it's interesting seeing that kind of line that goes through there. Back here we see the D, and at the Denver Mint in 1991 they made $631 million. Again, this one, if you can find this in an MS65, it's probably worth, it could be worth $10 to $12 also. And this one has the same thing, has the feathers, has the leg. Not quite as good on the arrow and back, pretty good with the tail. Much better unum. See the UM on this one from Denver? So there wasn't anything on this when they stamped it. Says $0.25 at the bottom, but just not quite enough to get an MS65 out of this probably. What does an MS65 look like? Well, it's going to look a lot like this. Okay, and this may be higher than MS65, but again, if it's only going to be worth 10 to 12 bucks in MS65 and 30 in an MS66 or maybe 40, I'm not going to send this in to get it graded. It's a beautiful coin. We look at the back and we see just really, so these feathers in the body go all the way down the back. We can actually see the real nice lines in the tail feathers. This is from an uncirculated mint set, and it clearly, they picked one of the good ones to put in this set. So how much would it be worth if it was an MS67? Maybe 275, $300. If it's an MS68, maybe $1,500. But people just aren't sending them in. Let's look at the head on this one. Not quite as good a beak line as the other one that we saw, but pretty good. And just the whole feathers all the way up through. So probably a really good coin, maybe worth in the hundreds, but we're never going to know because we're not going to send it in to get it graded. And here, of course, is the Philadelphia version, another one from the uncirculated mint set. We just see real good detail in the hair. Great lettering on this. We flip this one over again. Once again, we see the feathers coming all the way down through. A little bit of a line there. Not a great line, but an okay line through the middle feather there. A little bit messy in here and there, and not quite as good at the detail down at the bottom, but probably an MS65 again, but an MS65 for the Denver Mint from 1991 is only going to be worth about $12, so we won't send it in. I'm not trying to discourage you, I'm just trying to say, take these, keep them, appreciate them for what they are, but you don't need to have some big dollar value on them because you're probably not going to get it. Thanks for watching DC Coin.